Hi, I'm Ron Werner, and welcome to Test Taking Tips. Sitting for a certification exam can be an intimidating experience, even for a seasoned professional. In this video, I'll be sharing some tips and tricks on how to prepare for and take a standard certification exam. After completing this tutorial, you should be able to identify ways to prepare for a certification exam, apply these test-taking strategies to your own situation and for the exams you will be taking, and establish methods for efficiently and effectively taking certification exams. In this video, I'll be covering some general ideas for when you're preparing for and taking a certification exam. I'll talk about what you need to do even before you begin your studies. What do you do on the test day? While you're taking exam, what type of questions you can expect, the multiple choice answers you may see, and different strategies you can take for developing your answers. Lastly, I'll talk about how to handle that inevitable panic attack to develop your own strategy to be successful in test taking. Let's start with some general tips. I recommend you take as many sample tests as you can. Like anything else in life, practice, practice, practice. For many certification exams, you can find sample tests available either online or through study materials. Try to replicate that testing environment as much as possible as well. Take the entire test exam in one sitting. This way you can learn how to pace yourself, learning to develop your stamina as you're working through the exam, because a lot of these exams sometimes take a few hours to complete, and they do require you to have the ability to sit through an entire exam. That means putting away your cell phone, no internet, no cheating and trying to look up the answers. I know I'm sometimes tempted to do that. Use your intuition, your best guess, to walk through that question and then move on, replicating that test environment. You want to learn where you're doing well and where you have room for improvement, both with your test-taking strategies and with the course material. Also understand the test structure. What percentage of the exam will be on those strengths and weaknesses? And you can develop a strategy for better managing your time. That way you can focus on your strengths and build up your weaknesses so you can be prepared for taking that certification exam. Last tip on these general strategies is using positive self-talk. Believe it or not, that goes a long way. Keep thinking those positive thoughts that, hey, you can do this. Picture what it'll be like when you are done with the exam and what it'll be like when you receive that certification. That'll keep you motivated. Before you even begin taking the exam, develop your test-taking strategy. Review your certification program's testing policies and methods. Each certification exam can be slightly different. Read through everything on their website and through all of their material. Makes you fully understand and ask questions if you have them. Know the number of questions on the certification exam, how long you have to take the exam. What type of test is it? Is it the old-fashioned pencil and paper, or is it a new computer adaptive testing strategy where it all is done over a computer and the computer algorithms determine the number of questions? You also should understand the type of questions. Is it multiple choice, multiple guess, fill in the blank, or essay? Because that can also change your testing strategy. When you're scheduling the test, schedule it far enough in advance to give you time to study, but not too far in advance to where you're going to want to put it off. Also, circle that date on your calendar and make sure you hit it. I know too many professionals who put off taking their certification exams. Just do it. Focus on that date. Get her done. Familiarize yourself with the look, feel, and navigation of a computer-based test as well. Will you be able to go back to re-answer questions? Or do you have to take each question as they come at a time? You can even go visit the test-taking site prior to taking the exam. This will help you prepare before you begin taking that certification exam. Okay, it's test day. You've done all of your studying, you think you're prepared. What do you do to make sure you're ready on that inevitable test day? First of all, get a good night's sleep the night before. Don't spend the night cramming. Does not work. Good night's sleep has been shown to help you as you're taking that certification exam. Know what is allowed for you to bring into that testing environment. Many of them don't allow you to bring anything except yourself. But it doesn't hurt to ask. Know what to do with your cell phone. Do not bring it in with you. Do not bring in any of your study materials as well, and those should be left behind. You will need to bring some form of identification to be able to prove who you are. Most testing centers now have that as a requirement. Make sure you're prepared for when you show up. Also know where that test center is. Quite often these certification exams are using standardized test centers. Know how to get to it. Map it out. Know where to park. How long it'll take for you to walk from parking to get into that test center. You don't want to be late. For many of the certification exams, if you're late, you are not allowed to sit for that exam. So get there early. That way you can take a moment to catch your breath. Prepare yourself mentally for the exam. When you're sitting in the room taking that certification exam, read everything. Read all of the instructions very carefully. Read it twice. Take your time. Don't rush through the instructions because you might miss something that's very important. Know how much time you have per question. This is also part of your test preparation strategy. Let's say you have 90 questions and you have 2 hours to take it. That's 120 minutes. That's a little over a minute per question. You could even time yourself how long you're taking per question. If you have some questions that you're only taking a few seconds, then you know you can catch your breath for some of those harder questions that may take a little bit longer. It's also good to pace yourself. It's not a rush. You don't receive extra points for going fast on an exam. It's okay to take as much time as you need to be successful in your certification exam. Last, breathe. Think positively. What I'll do when I'm sitting for an exam is actually take some mini breaks to breathe, clear my head for a moment, just a quick moment break during the exam while I'm sitting there. And then I can move forward at a quicker pace and be able to continue successfully taking a certification exam. When you're sitting taking the exam, there's a certain strategy you should have for looking at the questions. Read the whole question. I know I'm always in a rush, and I will try to skim through the question and try to get through it as quickly as possible. That's usually when I get that question wrong. I've learned, take my time, read every word, make sure I'm highlighting specific words for different questions. Look for keywords in the question as well. You can also look for hints in the questions. Quite often the questions themselves might even have the answer right in it. It's sometimes a synonym between the question and the answer. Focus on some keywords. Look for words like not, or sometimes, always, or never. Those could be triggers to let you know what type of answer they're looking for. Particularly is what is not a situation. That means you need to eliminate all but the one that is the wrong answer. The rest will be right answers. Look for adjectives like most or least likely or best. Remove any distractors. Quite often questions will have some distracting element to them to throw you off that have nothing to do with the question. Take those, throw them out. Look for the meat of the question. Last, on looking at the questions, is there one answer or multiple answers? Sometimes it'll say, pick all of the answers that are correct, and you need to select. Make sure you understand the full question as you're reviewing the answers. On your screen, you see an example. You don't have to be knowledgeable on this topic to be able to understand this example. One of your top customers who doesn't understand technology called to your help desk to complain about your company's website. He said it's been defaced by an international organization that doesn't agree with your corporate policies. What type of threat actor typically looks like this? So going through the tips that I just mentioned on questions, that whole first sentence is a distractor, but also look for some of those keywords. What type of threat actor, so I would circle threat actor, we're looking for a type of threat actor typically does this. This is a good sample question to review these question strategies. Now let's go on to looking at what potential answers could be. For multiple choice exams, there are certain strategies you need to take as well. For example, after you read through the question, remove the distractors looking for keywords. Try to answer the question in your own mind without looking at the answers. If your answer in your mind is one of the ones listed, hey, then that's easy, right? Then you can move on quickly. Read each answer though. Make sure that there's not two that are very similar. Quite often they'll try to trick you. They'll have two very similar answers, but there's only one best answer. Eliminate wrong answers. Quite often in multiple choice exams, they'll have one that is completely in left field. Cross that out, ignore it. Use the process of elimination. You can even do a true or false answer. Well, answer A, true or false? Well, I think it's mostly false. Okay, that one at least maybe you can get rid of. And then go through each of the answers. Pick the most appropriate answer. It's not always the exact right answer, it's the most appropriate. I even try to think like the person who created the exam. What would be the answer they would expect? Which isn't always the absolute right answer for the real world. Think like the exam creator. If nothing else, make that educated guess and move on. It's usually best to stick with your first choice. Not always, but if you can, go with that gut instinct. Your gut and your subconscious may know the answer when your conscious may not. Choose an answer, keep going with the exam, don't second guess yourself. Let's walk through another example. This is the question you saw earlier, where I've removed the distractor. You see the first sentence has completely been crossed out. I highlighted some of the key words that you need to know to help answer this question. For example, website, defaced, international organization, typical threat actor. Those are the key words. The rest, maybe just fluff. Even if you're not aware of the answer, you can begin to determine what are the wrong answers. For example, we're talking about an international organization, so it couldn't be an insider. So you can get rid of D. Script kiddie, even if you're not sure what that is. Is it a hacktivist or organized crime? You can then make your best educated guess and move on. Use this as an example as you're going through your practice exams and learn how to develop your question taking and answering strategies. I have a few more answer strategies to share with you. As you're looking at the question and the answers, look for similar words in the questions and answers. Quite often the question will have a synonym with the answer. That could be a trigger for you to understand what the true answer is. Sometimes a good strategy is looking for the longest and most specific answer. More specificity could mean it's the correct answer. Again, not always. These are just some general test-taking tips. As you're reading the question, watch for those negative words like not, so what's not this? Or extreme wording, all or always. That also can give you a clue as to how to answer the question. As you're looking through the answers, if you're not quite sure, you're going through that process of elimination, use that true or false technique. Ask yourself for each answer, is this true or false? You can even begin to rate it, like 1 to 5, how certain am I with this? 1, I'm not very certain, 5, I'm very certain. You can use this as your process of elimination strategy. By the way, none of the above rarely is the answer, often a distractor. Now, all of the above could be the answer if at least 2 of the answers are correct. So you have 4 answers, last one is all of the above. You know 1 and 2 are correct, you're not sure about 3. As long as you're certain about 1 and 2, you can probably go with number 4, all of the above. You're in the middle of your certification exam. You have a question that you have no clue about. You begin to feel that panic. Your palms are getting sweaty and you're not sure how to move forward with the question and with the exam. So let's talk through some strategies and tactics for handling those panic attacks. First of all, Take a time out. Breathe. This is why pacing and timing yourself is very important. You know you have a minute to collect yourself, catch your breath. I will even close my eyes sometimes. Breathe, forget about the question for a minute, and then reread it with a clearer frame of mind. Use those positive thoughts I mentioned earlier, envisioning your success. Think about the questions that were similar to the ones you've answered previously. You might just already know the answer through your subconscious. Create the study space in your mind. What I mean by that, as you're studying, you might remember where you saw that in your study guide or book or internet reference. And sometimes by picturing that, going back to that space in your mind, you can recall the answer. Do your best to answer the question and then move on. Take that educated guess, and even if you need to guess, don't dwell on the question. This is also where you need to know about the test you are taking. Are you penalized for leaving questions blank? Some certification exams you are penalized, so you have to guess, but then move on. Keep working through the exam, don't second guess yourself. If you can come back to that question later, then do it. If not, keep moving forward, and this is how you can handle having those panic attacks. In this video, I covered some general tips for helping you as you're preparing for and taking a standard certification exam. Talked about what to do before you begin, how to handle that test day, and then looking through the questions and answers. And I concluded with handling panic attacks. These are just some ideas I'm presenting to you to help you as you're preparing for and taking certification exams. On your screen, you see some of the references that I used in creating this presentation. Hopefully you can use these as you're preparing for your certification exam experience. My name's Ron Werner, and this has been my Test Taking Tips video.